The Common Front began a little over 25 years ago, and it was around EI, and which was in a crisis point at that time, and so collectively, folks came together around that particular issue at the time. Since then, the Common Front and its chapters, local chapters, have been doing things around employment insurance, poverty issues, for example, social assistance, minimum wage, that kind of thing. We're recently doing employment standards to try to improve employment standards for workers across the province, and we are in solidarity with public service workers and trying to maintain publicly operated public services rather than contracted out and losing public services. And shall I say, coalition building, it goes without saying. Our name is the Common Front, so it's really important that we try to build coalitions of people to try to get folks on the same page, where politically there's divergent views and interests. And so the Common Front's been quite unique in that in the province over its history. I hope that perhaps that gives you a background too.
Right. So in the last 25 years, like what changes you have seen from the government side? What policies have you seen that has tried to, improve the lives of people and actually try to eradicate poverty within the province?
Yeah, I'll do my best because there's a caveat. I'm a board member, so I'm at the governance level and not the operational level. And I spent 11 years in Ontario, and so I missed a lot of what we're doing. But I recall before I moved to Ontario, the social assistance rates were at around $288, if I recall, for a person who is deemed by the social development to be single employable. And now they're up at the magnificent rate of $593, and they're indexed to inflation. Now that's certainly terrible still, but it's an improvement. The other things, I mean, as I say, on Monday you'll get some of our staff and other folks with more knowledge than myself. But in recent years, since my involvement, I'm particularly proud of what occurred through the Common Front and the Moncton Chapter leadership around the wage limits that are available to people on social assistance. So it used to be, for example, a single employable person on social assistance would be able to earn $150 a month, and anything more or less anything above that it kind of clawed back. And that amount, through the leadership of the Common Front and the Moncton Chapter, was increased to $500 a month. So that makes a meaningful difference for those who can access some part-time work, and that's a meaningful difference for folks. But again, it's a small amount, and small amount of people maybe that can access. But it's things like that that I see as benchmarks for what we're doing. And there's way more than that, as I say, that others could speak to. But it is a result of just of the constancy, the fact that we've been able to have a unique organization funded independently so that we're not beholden to anybody. And we can say what we need to say. And we've been fighting and scrapping for 25 plus years to hold the ground and to push forward where we can. And that's a tribute to the pioneers of this organization right up to the current people.
Right. So given the fact that inflation is a bit high post-pandemic, and since you said like the amount given is like $500, um, how are like people coping at present? Like how are they dealing with inflation particularly in Moncton?
Yeah, the rate for a single employable person is $593 a month. So you do the math. People like myself who are getting that rate
Right.
are living in rooming houses, are living a lot of folks in Moncton is not a secret, are on the street. Is huge problem in Moncton. Maybe the highest per capita in North America, I heard at a recent meeting, is very, very bad situation when you don't have the money to afford a roof over your head. The inflation rate since the COVID and the whatever you want to call it, the supply chain issues and war in Ukraine and whatever the hell they say is the problem, this resulting increase is the highest in historically in 40 or so years, and it's huge. So it's making a huge difference in people's ability to eke out an existence, demoralizing for people who are struggling to make ends meet, and just trying to hold on to hope. When you follow the news, as I follow the news pretty closely, and you hear that inflation has peaked, and all of a sudden maybe you hoping maybe it's going to go and get better, and then you wham, you get a 8.9% on one of the most noticeable bills that you get, because it comes standalone, a bill for NB Power, and that's what they want to put in. So it's a constant struggle, and people are hurting. The rent increases again during COVID. I mean, it's a gargantuan problem for some people in particular, but for the whole population as a whole. But some people in particular, when double the rent, double the cost of housing, either directly in the rent or they'll up it a certain amount, and you then they add the utilities that you have to pay that you didn't have to pay before. So with this 1 year hiatus with this so-called rent cap for a year, that's a bit of a help. But these are gargantuan and demoralizing things for poor people to deal with.
So in that case, like what does Common Front and yourself want from the government? Like what changes should be made in order to make people's lives better?
The rates for social assistance are just around a third of what a federal measurement of poverty is. At $593 a month, it's about a third of the poverty line, so to speak, of a federal measure of the poverty line. So we're asking that we're constantly asking that the rates be made to reflect that, which would mean doubling or 2.5 times. And we know that would be viewed as pie in the sky, but we push for that, and we build coalitions of people to influence decision makers, and politicians, and the public to support those increases. And social assistance or EI, again, similarly, EI and the minimum wage. We've seen a small increase, well, a meaningful increase in a certain way with the minimum wage in the last year, but it was a long time coming, and it's still way under the living wage requirement for New Brunswick cities, which should be, give or take $20 an hour, little less, little more. And your minimum wage at $13.75 is not cutting it either. But it's constant pressure needed to try to squeeze this out. When I made a presentation for our event at Moncton City Council, and the Mayor Arnold said at the end of the presentation, she put it in very clear words. She said, folks say that poverty is a policy decision, and you're damn right. It's policy decisions that are made that historically over decades that have favored corporate interests. And there's global competition for call centers and every kind of business to bring them into a country, a province, a state, a jurisdiction, and they're fighting to keep the corporate tax rates down low, And where does that money that they're giving away to corporations, where does that, what effect does that have? It has the effect on exactly all the folks that we've been talking about today. It's a policy decisions
Right.
that create poverty in this world.
So, like, is Common Front in discussion with the provincial government on this issue, or they are not listening to you, or are you in talks with the provincial government about this issue?
The Common Front is
Mhm.
constantly engaged with uh, all New Brunswick MLAs
Mhm.
and political parties, constantly on our various campaigns to on the issue. So, and we find allies where we can. So there's a communication link, but it
Right.
takes leadership, it takes courage on, and I say on the part of politicians as well as the people that are fighting as advocates. It takes courage to huge courage and sweat and tears and blood
Mhm.
to get even small changes approved. But yes, we are in good
Mhm.
communication regularly with the people that matter
Okay.
in that way.
So, can you tell us some details on the event this Monday?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the International Day for the Eradication of Poverty. It's an event that started in 1987 through the ATD Fourth World, a Catholic kind of organization in Paris, France, in '87. And we've been doing it, uh, act locally, think globally, act locally. We've been doing it in Moncton since 2007.
Mhm.
And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to go and give the many good folks and organizations that are fighting poverty and providing services. We're trying to gather them together and to make them know and remind them that this is part of a global struggle, and the day-to-day grind that they're into and the difficulties and challenges. This is going on all over the world. So our event, the style of the event, we're going to have a small ceremony at the Riverfront Park, uh, right in around in behind the Rogers building area. There's a poverty monument that we have there, a stone sculpture. And so people will gather there, weather permitting. We'll have a rain backup plan for rain. Check our Facebook page and what have you. But so there'll be a small gathering of folks there. Some words will be spoken in a small ceremony, and then the assembled folks will march with banners and placards and flags and what have you, and we'll march through to St. George's Anglican Church, which is maybe a 10-minute walk away through visible city streets, um, to show this message to the public. At St. George's, we're going to have a keynote speaker, which is Senator Nancy Hartling, who has certainly earned her stripes in her career as a social worker and as a leader around single parents and poverty issues, and a long-term friend and ally of the Common Front. So she'll be having a keynote speech. And then we have a panel of 3 members of folks who have lived or are living in poverty, and they'll be giving their views and their ideas to the people who are coming. Um, it'll be simultaneous translation available and what have you. So that's kind of how our event goes. So it'll start at 3 o'clock at the riverfront. It'll finish off close to 5 o'clock. And at 5 o'clock, then there'll be a light lunch, like sandwiches and light refreshments. And we hope some folks will be able to stick around for a little while for networking and sharing. And that's kind of our event that we, as we have it every year, excepting the last couple of years. This is noteworthy with COVID. We haven't had the event since 2019. So little jitters there. We'll see who all comes out, but we have good indications there that it'll be a good event. Good
Okay.
event attended.
Okay. Thank you so much for speaking with End Media Corp.
Thank you very much, Arun.